Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to look at staying connected during a winter lockdown. So I'll just give people a few minutes there's still a few people coming in, so I'll just give you all a moment. They're just joining us. So before we do get started, I just want to go over a few things just so everyone knows how to participate today. So I've taken a screenshot of your attendee interface, so you should see something like this on your computer, your tablet, and it's just letting you know that you're listening in using your computer audio and that you'll be muted for the duration of the webinar, but you can still ask any questions or leave any comments that you want in the questions panel there that I've highlighted, so you can do that anytime during the presentation, and I'll just pause at different moments to try and answer some of those questions for you. There also are some handouts available, so you should be able to access those through the control panel as well, and they're just offering you some more information. Included in those is a toolkit about managing our mental well-being during the coronavirus. If you can't hear me, let me know in the comments. Hopefully you can. Just had someone comment that they couldn't hear me. So if you get any problems, let me know. But yes, the handouts are there. You can download them during the webinar, but they'll also be made available on the website. So if you're watching this recorded, or if you just want to get hold of them at a later date, they'll be available on the First Psychology website under the News and Events tab. It's got information about all of our webinars in this series. So I just want to introduce myself now. So my name is Dr. Heather Meikle. So I'm a counselling psychologist and I also work as a clinical projects officer at First Psychology Scotland. So I've worked at First Psychology for just over 2 years now, first as a student and then as a practitioner developing one-to-one therapy, and now I both deliver therapy and also develop resources for clients and businesses like this webinar series. So we'll be really keen to get your feedback. Let me know what you think we did well, or if there's anything that we could improve about this at the end. So in today's webinar, we're going to look a little bit about how to stay connected during a winter lockdown. So why is it important to stay connected? You know, what does connectedness really mean? What does it look like? So when I say stay connected, you know, I don't necessarily mean social media connections. So I don't mean you need to stay connected on LinkedIn or Facebook. So what kind of does it mean then? So I guess for me, being connected helps us to feel like we're part of something greater than our own day-to-day experience of life. So whether that is by connecting with other people or with the world around you, connection can really enhance our emotional and physical and spiritual well-being, all of which is really important during a global pandemic. So let me know if there are any connections important in your life. Connections could be lots of different things. You know, it could be connecting with your loved ones, you know, making sure that you carve out quality time for friends and family, you know, no matter how busy you are, being there for them and letting them be there for you. It could be about connecting with yourself, you know, paying attention to your emotions, your thoughts, your physical health, giving yourself what you need, if that's self-care or compassion. It could be connecting with your community, whatever community that might be. You know, it could be people you share interests with, or challenges, or medical diagnosis, or it could be your neighbourhood community, or your workplace, or even your religion. And even connecting with nature and animals might be important to you. So it might be really important that you spend a lot of time outside, going for walks or sitting in nature, just observing the plants and the wildlife and the scenery, or feeding the birds in your garden, or spending time with your pets, your dog, your cat, or any other animals. And especially if you know what's most important to you and your values or your interests or your hobbies, you might want to stay connected to these activities to make sure your life or your day has a lot of meaning for you. So whether, you know, you're really passionate about creativity, you might spend time, you know, drawing and painting, or helping the environment's really important to you. You might spend time doing things that support that. So it's so important that we stay connected, because when we're disconnected, you know, especially from other people, we can feel that social pain that we all know as loneliness. That can have really serious implications for our mental and our physical health, but we can also feel disconnected from things that make our life meaningful and authentic, and that's when we can become depressed and hopeless. So we're going to look at some ways that we can stay connected during lockdown this winter, and primarily I want to look at connecting to other people, connecting to ourselves, and also, if we've got a bit of time, connecting with nature. So I'm interested to know if these are things that are important to you. So I just want to do a quick poll and just let me know if what's important to you is connecting with others, with yourself, with nature, or with something else. Just select the appropriate response and press submit. And if you've selected other, let me know in the questions panel what it is that you feel most disconnected from. So I'll give you a few minutes to answer. So if you've not responded yet, just go ahead and do that now, and I'll close the poll in a wee minute. If you've selected something else, let me know what that is in the questions panel. I'll make sure that I cover that as well. So I'm just going to close the poll now, and I'm just going to share the results with everyone. So it looks like most of you are more concerned about staying connected with other people, and a wee bit of an even split there between connecting with ourselves and nature and something else as well. So do let me know what your something else is. But that works out quite well because we're going to focus mostly on connecting with others and ourselves. So I just want to quickly find out where everyone is. So I just want to ask you another quick question, just about how confident you're feeling right now about staying connected during winter. If you're really confident, if you're really worried about staying connected, or if you're somewhere in the middle, just let me know. Just click submit again, or click your response and press submit. Okay, I'll just close the poll in a wee moment. So just submit your response if you've not done that already. Okay, I'll just share those results with you as well. So a lot of people feeling somewhat confident, or somewhere kind of in the middle, and a few of you not feeling very confident. So if there's anything in particular that you're really worried about, do let me know. This is just to give me a bit of an idea of where everyone is, so I can make sure that I'm talking about what is most important to you all, and we can see if we can't get some more of you to feel more confident and comfortable. So someone has mentioned it doesn't quite feel the same not being able to do the things that you want when you want, rather than you're having to think about everything about what's allowed first. So just feeling restricted maybe is maybe getting in the way of feeling connected, just that there's a lot of rules that we're following right now. Yeah, definitely. So the aim of this webinar then is just going to be about trying to it's not going to be just about encouraging you to organise, more Zoom catch-ups. I think we've all heard, a lot about that so far. But I want to try and increase your awareness of maybe some of the other barriers to staying connected this winter, and some practical ideas on how to connect, with yourselves as well, and others in a more meaningful way, as well as with any other important aspects of your life as well. So hopefully that will give you a bit of a chance to reflect and get some new ideas to stay connected and manage your mental health during lockdown. But if none of this sounds relevant to you, or if there's anything in particular that you'd really like me to cover, do let me know in the questions panel, because mostly what I'm talking about is quite general, and I'm happy to adapt these to more specific situations. So when we're talking about staying connected with others, obviously with winter coming in, days are shorter, they're darker, they're drearier, as we kind of have already seen, and we tend to spend a lot more time indoors, less time with other people. But this year, obviously, as I said, there's more restrictions, meaning that families and friends are being kept apart more, and people especially people who are living alone, are just getting less social contact. So how do we kind of stay connected? So we've all been in lockdown for quite a while now, so maybe you have some ideas that you want to share with me. Go ahead and put them in the questions panel. We might all be able to benefit from them, about some of the things that you like to do to try and stay connected. So some of those things could be, video chatting with other people, or maybe you have a bit of Zoom fatigue and you'd rather talk on the phone. I know there certainly is a bit of that going about right now. Maybe just messaging people on social media, meeting up, socially distanced, going for a walk, That's definitely my favourite one, getting a bit of actual face-to-face time and getting outside a wee bit more. Maybe play games online or watch TV shows or movies online with somebody else. Doing online fitness classes together, joining a book club or volunteering in your local community. So there are lots of ways that we can spend time with each other, whether that's online or socially distanced outside. That doesn't necessarily have to be on Zoom, and these are all really good for our mental health. But I kind of want to focus a little bit more on the quality of our interactions rather than the quantity of interactions. So how do we make sure that we're having quality interactions with other people, in whatever way that we're doing that during lockdown? So I think one of the things that I think gets in the way quite a lot is not having a good work-life balance. So Western society particularly tends to value sort of individual success and achievement rather than social connections. So we can often get a bit caught up in sacrificing our social connections for work status or financial status or a good self-image, things that we can maybe post about on social media, things that bring us success and achievement, but often at the expense of our social connections. So one important aspect of staying connected is making sure that you make time and prioritize social connections. You don't spend that time when you're with other people just thinking about work or just talking about work or even checking your work emails, trying to make sure that the quality of that interaction is about connecting with someone else and not just sort of ticking a box like, oh, we need to catch up with so and so. So some other ways that you like to spend quality time with other people, let me know if you've got any suggestions. Some things might be sharing interests. So if you're pursuing something that you're interested in with a friend, if you're learning a new skill or you're growing and you're failing together, it allows you to be more vulnerable and more open and really see each other's sort of strengths and weaknesses, and that can really build a stronger connection. As well as speaking to people, not just messaging them or liking their photos. I'm very bad for that. I'm so used to sort of keeping up with people kind of just by liking their pictures, posting a wee comment, and not actually taking the time to sort of pick up the phone and talk to them. Social media is so passive, so that can be a really important thing about good quality connections. Someone's mentioned they've just moved to the Highlands. Oh, wow. More really rural areas, so even more isolated because of COVID and being new to the area. Yeah, so that must be really difficult. Just not knowing that many people around you, not having as many people close by to talk to. So I'd be interested to know how you stay connected in that kind of place. And someone says, yeah, going for a walk and chatting with friends on the phone. It's a great idea. And so having real conversations is something that I kind of want to talk a wee bit more about, because I think for the most part we can get kind of caught up in this exchange that's not really like genuine conversations with each other. We sort of end up relying on sort of formatted questions and answers, and we end up sort of leaving an exchange where we shared information with each other, but we sort of leave more or less the same as when we entered, except we've got more information. But I don't know if that's really kind of connecting. We're not sharing our real self. We're only sharing, say, a part that we want people to see, so maybe that successful part or something. So conversations kind of often don't move, say for example, beyond the basic information of what have you been up to, prompting oh, I'm busy with the kids or with work, don't have a minute to come up for air, or asking, oh, how's the job going? You can maybe anticipate, pretty good, can't complain, or that also common, how are you, necessitates this automatic, oh, I'm fine, how are you? And there's no real connection occurring in these exchanges. They're very routine, they're very robotic, they're also quite self-protective. We're not really sharing very much with other people, and so that can prevent us from making real connections. So having real conversations requires a lot more participation. Two people are participating in more of an unpredictable kind of unfolding conversation. So how do we then achieve this authentic, this more authentic experience of conversation? So we have to sort of let our guard down to be more ourselves and share that with other people. That barrier that we build to protect how we want to be seen really does prevent that authentic conversation. So when we release that need to be seen in a particular way, you know, to be seen as being successful or happy, then we can have more deep connections, and the conversation isn't as predictable. So if you ever have a conversation that sort of enters into that unknown territory, try not to pull back into that more familiar, comfortable place, where maybe just sort of like, oh yes, fine, good. You know, try and ask more questions, be more curious, you know, let people express their discomfort without making light of it, or share a part of yourself that you would normally keep hidden. So by doing so, you really allow each other to be yourselves. So someone has mentioned, so a person who's out in the Highlands has said, oh, they've managed to get 4G internet because of not a landline, and that's been a game changer. I can only imagine how important having like physical connectivity is for staying connected. So yeah, that's a really important point. So I just want to mention this person-centered theory by Carl Rogers describes a little bit more about this interaction between our sort of our real self and who we want to be seen as. It's just this nice wee simple diagram, and it can also explains a bit about how not being your genuine self can be bad for your mental health. So as you can see in this diagram, we're our real self and our self-concept or our self-image, kind of who we want people to see us as, when they don't overlap very much, when we're not really being ourselves, we tend to be really unhappy. So we can sometimes get too caught up in wanting to present this really good self-image that we don't make deep connections because we're maybe afraid of being rejected, of our real self being rejected. So when we're too afraid to share the stuff that is genuinely us, we sort of miss that opportunity to develop real, kind of authentic, deep connections. And we can also experience, you know, mental health difficulties like depression, anxiety, or loneliness. So staying connected with others doesn't just mean spending a lot of time with other people and going on loads of Zoom quizzes and loads of Zoom catch-ups, but actually spending kind of quality time with other people. And that's something that we can certainly do even during a lockdown, as long as we've got some internet or a landline or something. So maybe try practicing having more kind of authentic conversations about how you're doing with other people, or, you know, be more willing to be yourself. When you're, you know, if you're doing a shared activity, or just be more curious with others about how they are. You know, kind of lean into that, ask a little bit more questions that maybe you would normally sort of steer away from. And so kind of leading on from that is a bit more about staying connected to yourself. So if you, the reason you fear being alone is that you don't enjoy spending time with yourself and your own thoughts and your own feelings, then now might be a really good time to try reconnecting with yourself. So I just want to come back to that diagram again. So you might be disconnected from yourself if you find that you're always striving for kind of external validation or external satisfaction. And you often feel like, you know, you're not good enough the way that you are, or you're not worthy if you're being your real self. So you create this self-concept that's very different. So you may not know who is actually under all those layers of kind of guilt or expectation or anxiety that have built up around you and taken your self-concept so far away from your real self. So you might look for something else or someone else to sort of complete you, and that's indicated there just as that external locus of evaluation, which is just talking about that external validation that we're looking for. But this second diagram illustrates how by accepting our real self more and incorporating that into our self-concept, you know, and then we're being more authentic, we're sharing more of our real self with other people, we tend to be more psychologically healthy and happy. Because when we draw our awareness and our acceptance inwards, we begin to heal our relationship with ourselves and feel more supported, more guided, more at peace when we're alone, rather than being lonely, because we're not relying on other people to make us feel good about ourselves. So we're sort of doing that for ourselves. So how do we do that? So how do we become more of our real selves and show more of that real self with the world? So a good place to start is by kind of listening to your emotions, connecting with them, understanding them, validating them, tolerating them. So how do we do that? Well, you might want to first ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Now, if you tend to come up with words like, you know, I feel sad, bad, anxious, you may need to sort of expand your emotional vocabulary a wee bit more. And you can do that really easily using tools just like this emotion wheel. You can find those really easily just by Googling emotion wheel and having a look and see what images and documents come up. This one's from the Ginto Institute. And as you can see, it just kind of helps you maneuver into more specific vocabulary for your emotions. And you can use that information as well and maybe do some emotion focusing to get to know yourself even better. So that's just about kind of asking yourself, what do I feel right now? Is it, if it's sadness, what is the quality of that sadness? Maybe using that emotion wheel, is it a longing sadness? Is it a lonely sadness, a hopeless sadness? And once you find, a word or a phrase or even an image that best describes how you're feeling, ask yourself, where in my body do I feel that? If this emotion were a thing in my body, what qualities would it have? Is it feel like a big heavy cannonball just sitting in your stomach, or like someone's tied some really tight barbed wire around your chest, or does it feel more like electricity, running all through your body? So, you might want to ask, is it like a gas or a liquid or a solid? Is it like a color? Does it move around your body? Does it stay in one place? And this just helps you get a bit out of your own head into that bodily experience of your emotions. And then you can ask yourself, what's triggered this emotion? Think about what's going on in your life right now, or maybe how you've perceived a certain situation with someone, and ask yourself finally, what does this feeling need? What does it want me to do to change this situation? Does it want me to reach out to someone? Does it want me to look after myself? Does it want me to, assert my boundaries? Maybe I need to say no to more things at work. So your feelings are always trying to tell us something and motivate us to take action to change where we are. So that need is really important. But if you're experiencing like a really distressing feeling, if you're experiencing loneliness or sadness or anxiety, your immediate reaction might be to try and escape or avoid this emotion. But actually accepting the distress you're feeling and committing to staying with that emotion can be much better for your mental well-being, even though it seems like the exact opposite from what you want to do. Staying with the emotion, understanding it like we were doing earlier, where it is in your body, what it looks like, just keep observing it until it naturally subsides. And then you can turn your attention back to a task that you want to do in the present moment. Could be something simple like just focusing on your breath, or an outward task like cooking, and expect that feeling will come back. But know that by actually facing them rather than running away from them, you're teaching yourself, like, I'm strong enough to handle this emotion. And by validating your feelings that you're having and having compassion for yourself, telling yourself it's okay to feel that way and asking that important question, what do I need, can help you connect with yourself in a really positive way. So if you often start sentences with, oh, I feel such and such, but, or if you often say, oh, I know I should be more grateful, or I know I should be less annoyed, or should cry less, or I shouldn't still feel this way, you might be invalidating your emotions. So you might have your own examples of this, of words and phrases that you do that tend to kind of squash those feelings down. If you want to share them with me, please do. Or if you've got any examples of what you say differently that's more helpful. So, maybe say things like, I feel sad and that's okay, or, it makes sense that I feel this way, or it's normal to still feel like this. It's okay to cry, it's okay to need help. So validating your emotions is really important to make sure you get to that part of that need of what does this emotion want you to do. Because that's often the bit that we neglect the most, I would say, is prioritizing our self-image, or we're prioritizing other people's needs before our own. So actually being able to get in touch with that need and express that is really important, and act on it. And you can also get to know yourself better by doing things like mindfulness or meditation. These can really increase your internal awareness, or just other creative things like drawing or writing or playing music are all ways that help us connect with and explore our emotions and our ideas. But like any relationship, the one we have with ourselves, it requires time and commitment to build that. But when you know yourself better, you'll find that you're able to have more real conversations with other people as well. by communicating what's going on for you and asking others questions, maybe ones similar to questions that you asked yourself, can help connect yourself to others on just a more deep, more authentic level. So if we've got a little bit of time, I'm just going to quickly mention connecting to nature. It's maybe not very popular for everyone, but all our research shows that getting outside, getting in touch with nature is really important to our well-being. So just got some ideas. I'm sure you all have lots of things that you've been doing during lockdown. I'm sure everyone misses kind of getting more out and about in the country, seeing more of the country, maybe seeing more of the world if you love to travel. That can often help us feel really connected to nature, but obviously we're not able to do that right now. So just getting out for walks, caring for your indoor plants during winter, because we're obviously not going to be much gardening going on. Maybe you're going to do more projects like photography projects about nature near you, or drawing studies, or maybe you just want to learn more about the plants and the trees that you see, or spend time with a pet, or learn more about your local wildlife, buying or building a bird home or something, or supporting a local charity, are all ways that can try and help us get connected. But usually the biggest barrier to connecting with nature and the outside world is that we're often too busy to pay attention to it. We're too busy thinking about what we still have to do, what we've not done, or what we have to do. So when we practice mindfulness when we're out in nature and really pay attention, is when we kind of get the most benefits from it. So there's lots of apps out there like Headspace or Calm. We've got some podcasts that I'll let you know about that you can listen to that tell you a bit more about mindfulness as well. And you might be surprised by how much looking after and learning about nature can improve your mood and your mental health, but it really does, because it helps us remember that we're part of something much bigger. If you imagine that you worked or lived in a room that didn't have any windows or plants or views or anything, how horrible that would be. I don't know about you, but I would rather be in a room, big bright windows, lots of plants around, just so I know I'm connected, not just stuck in this bubble by myself. So we've learned a little bit more about staying connected with others and ourselves mostly. So I'd be interested to know kind of where everybody's at. So I'm just going to ask you the same question I asked right at the start, just to see if anyone's changed their opinion about where they're at, they're feeling any more or less confident. Just let me know. Click on your response and press submit. Someone said they can give good advice to other people, but terrible at listening to their own advice. I can definitely appreciate that. And I think don't have too much time to go into that, but we're talking a little bit more about sort of motivation and that sort of mindsets that can get in the way of us doing the things that we know are good for us a little bit more next week's webinar. So it's kind of focused around coping with seasonal affective disorder, or kind of the winter blues, but we'll be talking a lot more about that. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about kind of how to increase your motivation to do those things that you tell other people to do, or to change your mindset, definitely do check that out. So I'm just going to close the poll just now and I'll share the responses with you. So we do have a little bit more of people feeling more confident or somewhat confident, so that's great. I'm glad. If there's anything else that you think you would like to know, ask me now. We've got a couple of minutes left, or what I'll do is I'll put my email address is just at the bottom of the screen there. So if you get any questions that you think of later, do drop me a wee email. I'll be happy to answer them. I've got some of our podcasts up there. You can find any of our podcasts just by going on to SoundCloud and typing in First Psychology. All our previous and upcoming webinars are on our website and also on our social media. We've been promoting them there as well. And I've just put some books in there if anyone's interested in learning more about emotions or being vulnerable in front of others. Brene Brown writes a lot about vulnerability and shame and things like that, so you might be really interested in some of her books. Somebody saying they work for a charity and that really helps, is good for their mind because they're helping other people. Yeah, I think anything where we're just being connected with others and feels like it's making our life meaningful can be really important. So I'm glad that you've been able to kind of stay connected to that during the lockdown. So that is kind of everything for the presentation side of things. If you do think of any other questions, ask me now, drop me an email later, that's absolutely fine. Staying connected during winter lockdown is this week's, but next week we also have the coping with seasonal affective disorder, and the week after that we're having our webinar on how to have a merry lockdown Christmas. So if you're interested in any of those webinars, do check them out. We've also got our previous webinars on working from home and some other things of managing mental health during lockdown. You'll also get a wee feedback form after the webinar. I would love it if you could give us some feedback, and you'll get a link, sort of a 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording if you're interested in that, and all the handouts will be available on the website. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.